Because I suspect that over the next 2 to 3 days, for some of you this will be really a life-transforming experience. That's a really big, fat claim for me to make, but it's one that I can make with some accuracy, I think, from the work that we've done with people your age. I'm excited because these guys at the back are an absolutely fantastic team, and they've been here since last night, putting together preparations for this program, setting everything up, and they are really excited to get a chance to meet you properly and to work with you later on. I'm excited because we get to talk about some of the big questions of life when we're here. We get to talk about questions like, who are you? And where are you going? What do you want from your life? What do you want from your time in education? What sort of person do you want to become? I think they're probably the biggest questions anyone, not just of your age, anyone my age or older can ask. Because it's kind of like, why spend the next 20,000 days of your life doing something meaningful? And what is it that would be meaningful for you to do with your life anyway? I get excited because you seem like a really buzzy group. It was really great to meet you guys off the coast. It's great that we hello there. You've been smiling all the time now, haven't you? There we go. We've got our own equivalent of you. It's called Courtney there with the camera. She's literally doing it as well, so we'll see how we go with that. But you seem in really good spirits, and that's really fantastic that we get to work with you from the beginning, being in a kind of an open place. Because this is the kind of how we roll over the next couple of 3 days. Is that we try and be open with one another. We try and provide a sort of space where people can talk into that space and not feel too self-conscious, and not feel like it's not okay to talk about something that's important to them. We're going to look a little bit about listening and respect, and really choice. So there's at least 4 things that we're looking to do in a program like this, which I'd just like to share with you right up front as our program aims. And I'm going to take a little time over each one, really to try and give it some context, so that I think we all are on the same page and we understand what it is that we're on about. But just before I do that, I'd like to do something pretty cheesy, because obviously you can tell Ryan I'm a pretty cheesy guy. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to turn to the person, and actually not just the person next to you, a few people around, at least 3 or 4 people. And I'm serious. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to shake them by the hand, and I'd like you to say, well done for being here.
Well done for being here, Courtney.
Well done for being
Thanks for playing ball with that. The reason, thank you, it's been really great. The reason I do that up front is because you're the guys that got on the coach this morning. You're the guys that have made the effort to be here. You're the guys that have given up your most precious resource in life, your time, to be here. You're the guys that are making that investment in yourself. The great thing about investing in yourself in life is it comes back to you again and again in the future.
Well, be here at school.
Great. Who was that? Cool. What's your name, buddy?
Ben.
Ben. Great. Nice to meet you. I'd probably rather be here than school as well. It's good that we're on the same page. But also, correct me if I'm wrong, also this was an opportunity that was given out to everyone in the year if they wanted to get involved. And you're the guys that have gone, yeah, you know what, I'm up for that, I'll give it a go. And you've done that on trust as well. You've done that because Mr. Fletcher and the teachers have said, hey, this might be a good thing for you to do. And at the moment you're sitting here and wondering whether that's going to be the case. I'd really love it when we get back together in 3 days and we close this up, if all of you know that it was a good investment in your time. So Ben and others, I thank you for taking the time to be here and rolling with us and seeing where we can go with that. It's a technical term. So, first reason that we come together on a program like this is to ask you guys to think about waking up to your potential. To ask you to think about waking up to your potential. They did an experiment over in France, a bunch of French scientists who were interested in fleas. Yeah. You may not know this, but fleas can jump several several times their own height. So if a flea was a human being, on equivalent terms, we could jump to about the height of a skyscraper.
Awesome.
Yeah. Wow. That's one of my words as well. Okay, we're going to get on just fine. So, fleas can jump to the height of a building, equivalently if they're human beings. So they're really powerful animals. But they decided to put these fleas in a bucket, and they put a lid on the bucket. And that's a bit cool, isn't it? They decided to leave them in there for a couple of weeks, and they came back, and they took the lid off. And what they found, which is really interesting, is that the fleas only jumped to the height of where the lid was. Just take the lid off. That would have been good if it was.
It's a boundary.
It's a boundary, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So just because they've become habituated, because they've got the habit of jumping to a certain height of the lid, when that thing's no longer there, they forget that actually they've got the ability to go much higher. Now, in my experience, human beings are quite similar to this. Because we often spend a lot of our lives being told by other people, hey, this isn't something for you, or hey, you're not this kind of person, or hey, you might not want to try this, or just we tell ourselves that we don't think we're capable of something. And in my experience, very few human beings actually get to experience what is the extent of your potential. Because one idea that I have about it is that no one is the authority on your potential other than you yourself. I'm not the authority on your potential. I can offer you an invitation for you to explore it, but I don't know how far you can go. And in life, it's only those people that go too far who almost know how far they can go. Most people live well within the realms of their potential. You know, we have this expression like dead at 30, buried at 70. It kind of means that most people never live their lives fully alive. They never really wake up and think, what could I do with this beautiful world of 6 billion people, of hundreds of countries, of infinite possibilities of what I could do with my life. And the fact that the average person in this world, in the UK at least, given the pension age at the moment, works about 18,000 days. You know, I get to see people who've made the decision to go into something not based on what they want to do, not based on what's in their heart or what they think they're really good at, but because someone said, hey, at 16 years old you might want to go off and do this job, and 20 years later they're still in it. And they get excited that we get the opportunity to work with people at your stage and suggest, hey, there might be another way of doing things. That actually you have the greatest gift in life, which is choice. Because that's the difference between being a human being and an animal. The difference between being a human being and an animal is an animal runs on habit and instinct, and a human being has something called awareness, which means that you can actually look back at your life and say, hey, is this how I want to live my life? Your dog doesn't get that choice. Your dog is going to be a dog. It's true, you might want it to be a cat, but it's a dog. So your dog doesn't have the ability to reflect on its life. Your dog doesn't have the ability to say, is this the life that I want to lead? But you, as young human beings, get the choice to say, is this how I want to lead my life? Do I want to do over the next couple of 3 years what I'm actually setting out to do at the moment? Where do I want to end up in my life? And what sort of person do I want to become? So the first idea on a program like this is just to get you to think about, can you be switched on to your life? Because most people go through their lives and never really switched on to what it is that they want to do. Most people don't realise that they can make things happen in their life that they never thought possible if they put themselves in the driving seats of their lives. So the second thing that we look on a program like this is how can you take personal responsibility for your life. I had the great fortune a few years ago, came across a guy by the name of John Fotley, who was born in the southern states of America in the 1960s. John was born with the rare distinction of not having any arms. So his mother wasn't quite sure what to think on his birth. She was overwhelmed with joy. The birth of her first child had been looking forward to it for a long time. But she was slightly dismayed that he should have this physical affliction of not having any arms. But she decided quite early in John's life that she wouldn't treat him differently than anyone else. That he had literally to learn to stand on his own 2 feet. So he'd sometimes come back from school. We're not nice to each other necessarily in school. People would push him around. He was a bit of a soft target. He was an easy target. We pick on people that are soft and easy targets generally. And he'd sometimes come home and he'd have blood on his face. He'd been pushed over. He had no hands to break his fall. And other mothers would say to him, how can you let this happen? She'd say, hey, John's got to learn to stand on his own 2 feet. But that wasn't always the message that happened to him through his life. People were always telling him things that he couldn't do. You know, hey, we'll take part in a game of frisbee. Why don't you go and stand on the edge? Because this probably isn't for you. Game of football. Why don't you collect the ball when it goes behind the goal? And eventually he kind of got to a stage in his life, and I think it's probably the stage that some of you are at now, where you have the opportunity to be there in the near future, where you can step back from your life and think, what is this all about? Why am I here? Who am I? Where am I going? What do I want from my life? And basically, what is the story that I tell myself about my life? And John worked out that there were principally two things he could tell himself about his life. And he came from a religious family in the southern states, Christian family. You may not be, I'm not, but that's where he was. And so he had this explanation. He said, God, why have you had me born without any arms? Or there's this second story, God, you've had me born without any arms, and you've given me the courage to overcome it. It's one quite small shift in words, but one really massive shift in terms of where it puts you as regards being responsible for your life. Because for the first time in his life, he stopped feeling sorry for himself. He thought, this human frame that we've got, most people can do about 10,000 things with it, from sticking a finger up at someone, through to winking, that is rude, I'm sorry there, or to smiling, or to doing a star jump, or to whatever you decide you want to do with this beautiful thing that we call the human body. And he worked out of those 10,000 things, there were literally 9,000 of them that he could do. And there's only 1,000 things that he couldn't do. And he thought, is it intelligent for me to focus all my life energy on the 1,000 things that I can't do and beat myself up about them? Or does it make more sense to focus on the 9,000 things I can do and get better at them? And he thought it made sense to be smart. And for the first time, he actually started to focus his life on what he could do. And he started to get momentum in his life. He started to teach himself things. He taught himself to touch type at a speed of faster than 50 words per minute with his feet. He actually taught himself so that he could touch type with this foot, and he could answer a landline telephone in the other foot by bringing this foot all the way up here to his head. And he set up a business part-time outside of school. Suddenly he had a bit of momentum. He taught himself to drive. Due to a technicality in the state law in Texas, he could drive a year earlier than anyone else, and he got himself driving with a specially adapted wheel. Suddenly he had a car and he was going places. There were things that people said he would never do. It took him years to learn how to open a can of Coke, which you would probably find pretty simple, but he had to tell himself there's no school that teaches you this stuff. He took himself off to university. People said, John, you can't even cook yourself a meal. How are you going to go and look after yourself? And he said, I'm going to find a way, I'll make a way. He went off to university, he got people to help him write notes where he needed to, he got people to help him cook meals, he taught himself how to cook a meal on the floor, he could prepare salad, he taught himself to use a cooker with his feet, he taught himself how to stand on a workbench, do things with his feet that most people would do with their hands. And eventually he graduated from a good American university in the top 5% of his year. And the reason he came into my life is he now travels across America and the world, taking to people what he calls his message of hope, which is that your past does not equal your future unless you decide to live there. Most people live their lives through the lens of the past. Things that didn't work out, things that they didn't make happen, things that people told them, stories their parents have told them about what they can do or what they can't do, and they project that into the future. And he goes around telling people that basically your future doesn't equal your past unless you decide it to. That biography is not destiny. What he means by that is biography, where you come from, does not mean destiny where you go. Because you can meet people in any walk of life that have come from the shittest places on earth, and they get to where they want to go based upon their ability to make decisions about what they want from their life. You can meet people from any walk of life who've had some of the toughest things happen to them emotionally, physically, parents, money, you name it, and they end up in some really brilliant places sometimes if they're willing to make decisions about what that stuff means. Because you can tell yourself that I've had some shit happen in my past so that my future's going to be a bit shit. Or you can tell yourself that I've had some stuff in the past and that's made me stronger, and I'm still here and what hasn't killed me makes me stronger. So whatever the story is that you decide to tell yourself about your life will have a huge effect on where it is that you think you're going. You might have told yourself that you're not capable of getting A's. I reckon if we sat down and we worked at it hard enough and you got a strategy in place that would get you an A grade, that a lot of you could achieve that next year. A lot of you could achieve that next year. But that's partly about setting an intention that is that really what you want to do. So we have a belief, and you can try this on for size because you don't have to take it from me, but we have a belief that your life happens better when you put yourself in the driving seat. When you work out what it is that you want to do, not other people, what do you actually want to do? And how can you set a goal for yourself that you're actually going to go and make it? We have this kind of cheesy expression that no one wanders around and finds themselves at the top of Everest. Mount Everest, the highest mountain in the world. You're not going to get to the top there and some guy's going to go, yeah, hey buddy, just thought I'd have a quick stroll, nice to see you here. Ain't going to happen. Anyone who's done that in their life has had a plan and they're responsible for it and they've gone out and made it happen. Similarly, anyone that's got a good set of GCSE grades hasn't got them by chance. You know, there's a thing in life called talent. Yeah? Different people have different talents. But there's another thing in life which is called effort application, courage, vision, and that's the stuff that you apply to this, which determines where you get in the long term. You know, I'm a footballer. A lot of the things I learned in life from football. One of the best experiences of my life. In 1996, all the ball boys for the England-Holland game in the European Championship, all of them are from Norfolk. You know, I'm from a place called Lodging, which some of you might have heard from. So I'm not that far away from where some of you are. And I've got the opportunity to go and be a ball boy at Wembley. You know, it's about 80,000